You cannot find it by your own willpower. So discovering that life and recovering it is what being a Christian is all about. And today we're looking at the step in that journey of recovery when I believe everything really starts to change. So it's a great week to join us if you haven't been here so far. You want some hope in your life that things can be different? Anybody? Yes. Then listen up. The whole premise for this series has been some words of Jesus which, if taken seriously, will radically impact your life. Because he made this invitation up on the screen. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? He's saying, are you sick of the way that things are? Have you had enough of going around the same old cycles of behavior and getting the same outcomes? Are you feeling overwhelmed by the expectations and obligations that this world has put on you? And you're feeling ready to quit? If that's you, he says, come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. Wow, what a promise. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Now, some of us have heard that promise for years, and yet we still don't come to Jesus like he invites us to do. And we still haven't discovered the reality of what it means to rest in the relationship that he offers each one of us. Maybe today is when it all begins to change. But before we get into it, I want to introduce you to a lady. She's been coming to our church on and off for many years. So if you'd give a warm welcome to Lisa Evans, she's going to come up and share some stuff with her. It's a scary thing coming up in front of everybody here. So over the last couple of weeks, what we've been looking at are some principles of recovery. And we've looked at a couple so far. And the first one is about realizing I'm not God and understanding that I'm powerless and my life has become unmanageable. And the second one is all about earnestly seeking God, earnestly believing that he exists and that I matter to him and that he has the power to help me to recover. So Lisa, as you'll find out, she's on her own recovery journey and quite early on in the process, actually. So we wanted to talk about, just give a face to those first two principles. So Lisa, thanks for doing this. How did you realize that your life had become unmanageable?
Morning, church. Basically, I'm here a bit to talk about my recovery. I'm just going to give you a small part of kind of how I got here, if that's okay, Ollie. I have got an addiction. This has been with me from the age of around 13. I'm 47 this year, so that has been with me throughout my life, through every occasion that I've been through, every happy one, sad one. It's put me in dangerous positions. It's torn my life apart. I'm not going to give a testimony on that because we haven't got enough time in the day today. We'll be here all week. So I'm just going to fast forward to last year. My addiction took a full grip of my whole life, completely, where my life became unmanageable. And when I say unmanageable, it was in every aspect that you can think of, as in the relationship with my daughters, my mother, my whole family, myself, colleagues that I worked with, my relationship with my partner. I ended the year having to leave my job that I'd been in for 9.5 years due to my addiction. I was asked to either leave or face being sacked, so I took the first option. My partner that I'd been with for 7 years ended up walking out. I do have a photo on my phone, which I won't stare you all with this morning. A few of you here have seen it, that I took of myself on Christmas Eve, which was when I kind of came to the realisation that enough was enough.
came to your senses. That's what we talked about last week.
Most definitely. But again, being an addict, it didn't stop there. I tested the water again because that's the insanity and the mental. If you have an addiction, I can't tell you the mental insanity of living with it, and the effort that you put into that addiction is absolutely unreal.
So your life became totally unmanageable, obviously so, to yourself, finally, after all those years. So I know this is tough, but how did you come to believe that you mattered to God and that he exists and that maybe he had the power to help you recover?
Because basically that I couldn't continue the way I was going. Sorry. Had I have done, I can probably tell you I would either be dead this year or probably in a mental institution or detained under the Mental Health Act. But truly my life became, like I said, totally unmanageable, and I had to, thank you, admit that I can't continue as I was, and that I was totally powerless to it. And so I prayed. I prayed on the 2nd of January just to get me through this year. And I've continued to do that to get myself sort of where I am today.
So it's step by step.
Yeah, step by step. So step one, I realised, obviously, like, I'm not God. I am powerless to control this tendency. I can't do it on my own. I've tried it, and I've managed to push that self-destruct button. So, I have to rely on God, who is my saviour and has been helping me, which brings me kind of along to step two, which is earnestly believing that God exists and that I matter to him and that he has the power to help me recover. I know God exists in my life. I've been praying every day since the 2nd of January for God to help me and guide me every day and get me through, whether that be for half a day, break the day up, and then we kind of get to the end of the day. I thank him every day. I thank him every evening that I've got to my bed safe and I'm sound. And I've got to continue doing that.
It's a daily thing, isn't it?
It is a daily thing, and the thing is that if I don't put in the work, I won't receive anything back. It's no good me saying, I'm just going to pray about this and expect God, to take everything just like that. You have to work at these things. And
in those verses we just read, it says about walking with him and working with him. So
and
doing
using
that
tools
daily.
that you've been given, which I've had the opportunity to do Celebrate Recovery, and using those tools and praying, and using groups that are out there and people that you can rely on to get you through those struggles. But it is a daily...
So you found yourself really at step 3. It's what we're talking about
kind of
today.
Yeah. But it is all about commitment. The same as anything in your life that you hand over to God. It isn't, you have to daily, work at that. I described myself the other day as kind of a tangled ball.
Tangled ball of wool.
Mental, insane ball. And I feel as if I'm beginning to untangle, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's slowly...
It's a
slowly
process, isn't it?
untangling. It's
Yeah.
getting there. So anybody that's struggling out there today with anything, really, it doesn't have to be an addiction, just any hang-ups, I really would say hand them over to God. And if you're interested in this, I know Janet's got a table at the back. And it is a daily working. It is something that I'm going to have to practice for the rest of my life if I want this. Because being an addict, it doesn't go away. It doesn't shut off. It's what I've got to, like I said, put in to get out. So,
Thanks, Lisa.
all right.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. Can we say thank you, Lisa? Okay. So we've been thinking over the last couple of weeks about what does it mean to recover your life. God has very clearly outlined in his word, the Bible, that he has good plans for you and me. Good plans. Not plans to ruin your life, to make it boring, but good plans which are going to fulfill you. Things that he wants to work in us and through us to see his good purposes fulfilled. But how do we get beyond our issues and our tendency to mess things up and actually see the reality of that rich and satisfying life that he promises? That's my question as a pastor, as I meet up with people in need of hope and help, struggling with really complicated life issues. Do I believe that transformation is possible? Yes, I do. You'll be pleased to know. Sometimes we don't believe it for ourselves because we've lived with it for a long time, like Lisa's just explained. So to help us, we've been referencing a recovery program that millions of people have followed since the early 20th century, the 12 steps of recovery. What's interesting that this is actually a discipleship framework that Jesus came up with a couple of thousand years earlier in a sermon that he preached that we know as the Sermon on the Mount. And in Matthew chapter 5, there's a whole section about what we call the Beatitudes. This is the plan that God has given us, his plan of recovery. And it's attitudes that will live to a blessed life. That's what we talked about last week, a life worth living. When Jesus said, come to me, him, he meant it. So great as our man-made programs can be, nothing beats going to the one who has the words of eternal life. And his words have led to 8 principles of recovery that we're launching at Kingfisher in April called Celebrate Recovery. And these 8 principles form an acrostic, which, if you've been here the last couple of weeks, you will know spells out, of course, we're going to get this into your psyche. And each week in this series, we're taking one principle, one letter at a time, to think about the process of recovering your life. Or more specifically, recovering the life that God intended you to have. This is not about becoming more self-sufficient and independent, but being God-sufficient and dependent more and more on him. That's actually where life is located. He is the source of it, after all. So we started with R, realize I am not God, that I'm powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing. My life has become unmanageable. It's the starting place for any change. It's what precedes and initiates that coming to Jesus. I've had enough. I can't do it my way anymore. I admit my powerlessness. Not easy for the control freaks amongst us, which is all of us, by the way. All of us. We all want to do things my way, given half the chance. But realizing I'm not God and admitting that this life is beyond my control is only a starting place, because without the next step, you could just be left feeling helpless and hopeless. So last week we looked at E, earnestly believe that God exists, that I matter to him, and he has the power to help me recover. If you don't believe in a power greater than yourself, who can restore you to sanity, then the only choice you have left is to opt out altogether or to go back to trying to control things yourself. Either way, it's a destructive path to take. But when you earnestly seek God, he promises that you will find him and you will find answers. You will recover your life. That's what he said. This was one of our key verses from last week. When you come looking for me, you'll find me. Yes, when you get serious about finding me and want it more than anything else, I'll make sure you won't be disappointed. God's decree. I'll turn things around for you. Wow. God says, come to me and I'll turn things around for you. You don't have to try and make yourself better. I will do it as you walk with me and work with me. The beatitude last week was this: you're blessed when you feel that you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. It's coming to that place of believing that God is more than able. He is more able than anything else. He is more able than anything else I think will do it for me. It's God. Only he has the power to help me recover from my hurts, my hang-ups, my habits, which brings us to the letter C in recovery. Because believing something and then acting on that belief are two different things. Coming to that step of believing is great, but that belief means nothing and changes nothing unless I act on it and I test it out to show that I mean what I believe. Realizing and admitting where I am and believing that God might just be able to help me recover is the start of change. But it's at that point that you and I have to make a decision. Do I believe enough to do something about it? So the C of recovery stands for consciously choose to commit all my life and will to Christ's care and control. This is where the rubber really hits the road. Because now we're starting to make some different choices to what we've done in the past. I mean, the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, all those years ago, put it like this. They said that we made a decision to turn our lives and our wills over to the care of God. Can't do it myself anymore. God, I'm giving you my life. You do it. You make the difference. It's a decision to do things God's way and not my way. It's a decision to relinquish control to Him, to not be driven by my own feelings and emotions anymore. I no longer trust my heart to do what's best for me as I survey the brokenness of my life. So I'll run my thoughts and my responses and my words and my actions through the filter of what God says and what God wants for my life. And I'll look to Jesus for wisdom and for guidance, and I'll watch how He does it, and I'll keep company with Him. That's where I'll learn to live freely and lightly. You know, that decision to turn my life and my will over to the care of God is the place that every person who calls themselves a Christian has come to at some point in their life. That's what it means, that place of surrender. Last week we mentioned the prodigal son who he wasted his life doing what he wanted. And he ended up alone with the pigs, starving, remember, thinking that the pig's will looked good enough to eat. And he thought about home, and he dared to believe that his father might take him back. If not as a son, then at least as a servant. But it wasn't until he acted on that belief, when he started for home. It was only then that he discovered that incredible welcome home, the embrace, the restoration that had always been available to him. Jesus says that's what we can expect when we return to God. Did you know that you can believe in God and yet not know the extent of His love for you? I mean, I can believe that this chair here is able to hold my weight and help me to relax. I can believe that, but it doesn't become real faith. I don't experience the benefit of that chair until I actually choose to sit down in it. Isn't that right? I can believe it can hold me, but actually, at some point, I have to make the decision to test it out. To show what? To show that it actually does hold my weight. Lost my place now, Mike. So here's the question. Have you made that conscious choice to commit your life and your will to Christ's care and control? Believing in Him is one thing. Putting your faith in Him is something much more active. Here's what Jesus said in the Beatitudes. He said, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." The meek. I don't know if you know what meekness is. It's wrongly been identified with weakness. Meekness, weakness. This couldn't be further from the truth. This is what meekness means. It means restraining one's own power so as to allow room for others. It's been defined several ways: humble, teachable, patient under suffering, willing to follow gospel teachings. It's an attribute of a true disciple. Jesus described Himself as meek. Here's those verses from Matthew 11 again. This is from a different version, where He said, Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am gentle, meek, and humble, lowly in heart, and you will find rest, relief and ease and refreshment and recreation and blessed quiet for your souls. Gentleness and meekness are not signs of weakness. You know, Jesus has been described as gentle Jesus, meek and mild. He's been pictured as some softly spoken, blonde-haired, blue-eyed weakling in a white dress. I don't know. When in fact, you know, his presence commanded attention. You know, by trade, he was a carpenter, which was a physically challenging job. He'd have had muscles. This is the man who shouted at those who were using the temple for their own selfish gain, who drove them out and upturned tables. This was the man whose very presence threatened the religious elite of his day. So much so that they planned his death. They wanted him gone. And though he also had friends who betrayed him and disowned him. And this is what we read about him when he was hauled in front of the authorities. If anybody had cause to complain and to moan, it was Jesus. And it says this, when he was reviled and insulted, he did not revile or offer insult in return. When he was abused and suffered, he made no threats of vengeance. But listen, but he trusted himself and everything to him who judges fairly. Then he withstood 39 lashes of a whip called a cat o' nine tails, which had like little bits of bone attached to the end of the whip, which literally ripped up the body as the person was flogged. 39 times. Some people died just at that point. And then he carried his cross to a place where they nailed him to it. This is not a weak man. No matter how he was treated, he only did and he only said what he believed God the Father told him to do and to say. He did not allow what he was going through and what he was feeling to dictate his actions or his words. That is strength under control, isn't it? It's restraining one's own human power to allow God's will to be done. Do you know how much inner strength that takes? That's meekness. You know, for some of us, we've only got to have someone cut us up on the road. We're shouting obscenities and honking the horn and giving them what we think is the appropriate gesture. You know, when we act without thinking and we react out of how we're feeling, that's when we can be said to be out of control. How many times have you heard that as a vindication for some misdemeanor? I just lost control. I just saw red. Couldn't help myself. Meekness is having an attitude of deferring control to God. God, I'm trusting you, so I'm not taking things into my own hands, but I'm leaving them in yours. It's a decision to surrender control. To not allow my feelings to be the controlling force, which they so often are. To not allow what I think I need in the moment to be the deciding factor. I consciously choose to commit all my life and my will to Christ's care and control. It's a little word, all my life and will. Like Jesus said, that's myself and everything. Every area, every situation, every problem. Jesus, come and be the one who is in charge here. Be Lord. That's what we call him. Pretty radical. Here's how Jesus put it. He said, it's in Luke chapter 9, he said, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross daily, and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you'll lose it. If you give up your life for my sake, you'll save it. I mean, not doing things my way, dying to myself and my wants, following Jesus, it takes strength. That's real meekness. But look at the results. A saved life, a recovered life, a meaningful life. Yes, I can carry on doing things my way. But like Jesus says in the very next verse, what do you benefit if you gain the whole world, but are yourself lost or destroyed? I mean, you can accomplish your greatest ambition. You can be successful in business. You can be the most famous musician. You can earn millions. You can pursue all the things that you think are going to make life meaningful and worthwhile. Or, on the other hand, you can give up any sense of responsibility and just do whatever you want in each moment, not even thinking about the consequences. But what does any of it benefit you, really? If in the process you lose sight of who you really are and what you're really here to do. I think this quote from the actor Jim Carrey is really telling. He said, I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see it's not the answer. Last week I mentioned one of the youngest lottery winners. You might have seen this in the news. He was thinking of suing the lottery for ruining her life because she won millions at such a young age. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Here's what she said. She said, I have material things, but apart from that, my life is empty. What is my purpose? I mean, how sad. And yet we still keep chasing these things and thinking we know best. Might not have worked for them, but it's going to be different for me. It's called insanity. Now, I've heard people in the past say that Christianity is just a crutch for weak people. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Really? From my perspective, it takes guts to be a real Christian. To allow God's power and His will to control my life. Not easy to make that conscious decision to surrender. It takes real courage. But here's what you'll discover. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. This life that we see is not all there is to life. And we find our meaning and our purpose for being now and in eternity, let's not forget. We recover our real life as we come to Jesus. But it needs to be all in. That's what will make the biggest difference. It's so countercultural. But Jesus said, if your first concern is to look after yourself, you'll never find yourself. But if you forget about yourself and look to me, you'll find both yourself and me. What areas of your life have you not surrendered to God? I ask myself the same question. Maybe you've only let him in so far. Maybe that you're still in that place of fighting for control. Still wanting to do what you want in your way with the deluded belief that somehow that's going to get me the life that I want. Well, by all means, keep trying. You can do that. It's up to you. You've got free will. But if it hasn't worked up to this point in your life, what are the chances that it's ever going to? Like I said, that's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But when you consciously choose to commit all of it to God, when you reach that place of full surrender and say, God, here I am. Do with my life what you want. That's when God can really start to turn things around. How do I know what God wants? This is really quick just to finish. The band might want to come up. Well, turn your attention to Him. Talk to Him. He's there. He's real. He is there. What was it Jesus said? Walk with me and work with me. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Keep company with me. This is about a relationship. It's not a dictatorship. It's choosing to embark on that journey of getting to know God more. And that happens in community. It happens as we make that choice to be in church, to worship Jesus. It happens as we make that choice to get to our Connect group where we can look at God's word together and find out what it means. It happens as we ask God for direction. and then live obediently as we act on what we believe he has said to us. It happens as we make that conscious decision to follow Jesus, which means to be like him, to speak like him, to act like him. It happens as we choose his way above my way. What did Jesus do? He stayed silent in the face of accusation. That was one thing. And he forgave quickly. It's when we try and take control or lose control that we miss out on God's best. And as one preacher put it, he said, you'll never come second by putting God first. And that's what I've found in my life. That's what I'm discovering. And Jesus promises, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Inheriting the earth means getting the best of what God always intended for life. It means recovering your life as it was meant to be. Are you ready to take that next step? It is a conscious decision. Now, God has given you free will, so this has to be a free will choice. No one can make this decision for you except you. And when you do make it wholeheartedly. Make it a daily decision, like Lisa said. Because it's only as you take this step, this conscious decision to give your life to God, that you'll be able to do all the other steps that come. Without this step, you won't be able to do the others. It's that important. Let's pray together. Father, this is so countercultural to us. Lord, we live in a world where my rights and what I want is right up there in terms of priority. And Lord, you're asking us to forget ourselves, to die to ourselves. And how do we even do that? How do we even know what that means? But Lord, I pray that you would show us. Lord, as we make that decision, say, Jesus, come and take over my life. Because I want to go your way. I want the life that you have ordained for me. I want to know the things that you plan for me. I want to fulfill all the good things that you have purposed for my life. Lord, as we make that decision, I pray that you would show us daily what that means in reality. Jesus, come and be Lord of my life. Come and sit in the driving seat. I want to work with you. I want to walk with you. So I invite you to come and do that in my life. Amen.